Hello, you're listening to Count Richard Van Coudenhove Kalergi. Just down here at the East Wall again. It's Malik you see in there. The Irish Freedom Party of Michael Hayes around there. Reading out the proclamation.
Of the bad generations from which she receives her old traditions of nationhood. Ireland, through us, summons her child to her flag and strikes for her freedom. Having organised and trained her manhood through her secret revolutionary organisation, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and through her open military organisation, the Irish Volunteers and the Irish Citizen Army have patiently perfected her discipline and have
Remember that chap from Barrow Street? I think it's suddenly a business post.
She now seizes that moment and supports her exiled children in America and by gallant allies in Europe. But relying on her own strength, she strikes in full confidence of victory. We declare the right of the people of Ireland to the ownership of Ireland and to the unfettered control of Irish destinies. Be sovereign and indefatigable. The long usurpation of that right by our people movement has not extinguished the right, nor can it be extinguished except by the destruction of the Irish people. In every generation, the Irish people have asserted the right to the national freedom and sovereignty 6 times during the past 300 years. They have asserted it in arms, standing on that fundamental right, and again asserting it in arms in the face of the world. We hereby proclaim the Irish Republic as a sovereign independent state, and we pledge our lives and the lives of our comrades in arms to the cause of freedom and welfare and of its exaltation amongst the nations. The Irish Republic is entitled to and hereby claims the alliance of every Irishman and every Irish woman. The Republic guarantees religious and civil liberty, equal rights and equal opportunities to all citizens, and declares its resolve to pursue the happiness and property of the whole nation and cherishing all the children of the nation equally, oblivious of the different security fostered by a nation which have divided a minority from the majority in the past. Killer arms have brought the opportune moment for the establishment of a permanent national government representative of the whole people of Ireland and elected by the suffrage of all her men and women. The provisional government hereby constitute will administer the civil and military affairs of the Republic in trust for the people. We place the cause of the Irish Republic under the protection of the Most High God, whose blessing be invoked upon our arms, and we pray that no one who serves this will cause dishonour to by cowardice, inhumanity, or wrongdoing. In this supreme hour, the Irish nation must explore and discipline by the readiness of its children to sacrifice themselves in the common good, prove itself worthy of the august destinies to which it is called.
I use the mic.
Good girl, you're doing great.
Claire, Sean McDermott, Thomas McDonough, Padraig Pearce, Eamon Cannon, James Coffey, and Joseph Plunkett. For a meal of
Yay!
Thanks, Keith, Katie and Aaron. Just on Tuesday we gave you a bit of an update on where the councillor stood in relation to this. Now we have apologies from Niall Ring, who couldn't be here today.
Yeah, right.
But fully supports us as he's at a wedding, a family wedding. Councillor Burke is at a family christening. Other than that, he would be here. I don't propose to go back over what happened with the councillors. We gave them certain instructions. Some of them carried them out, some of them didn't. The position, as far as the council matters are concerned, is that there is still no planning permission for this change of use. There is still no fire service. met, as most of you will know from the media, with Pascal Coudenhove, a local TD and Minister for Finance, and Roderick O'Gorman, the Minister for Children and all sorts of other things. No, and we don't expect them to be here. Just, if people let me speak, please. We didn't go in to negotiate with them or to discuss anything with them. We went in to tell them simply of our demand. And that demand was that this facility was to close. And we gave them 7 days to do that. And considering they were able to populate it overnight, they should be well able to do that. Naturally, they refused. We met yesterday with Mary Lou MacDonald from Sinn Féin. And we made it quite clear to her our position. Needless to say, they have no difficulty with this facility being here. We asked her, and we asked her representatives who we met on Tuesday, I think, maybe Wednesday, I can't remember this day, for an apology from her councillor in Kerry, whose name escapes me at the minute, who said that he would be afraid to walk through East Wall. But it wouldn't be the asylum seekers he'd be afraid of, it was the people in East Wall. Well, he may well be afraid of the people in East Wall. In relation to our other TDs, Gary Gannon from the Social Democrats. I don't need to say anything about him. People know my opinion of him, and it's reflected in this community. And I wouldn't fancy him if he was brought here. Some of you, or most of you I hope, saw the Tonight programme on Virgin. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. And I saw a councillor called Janet Horan from the Green Party, who apparently represents this constituency. Perhaps she's out there somewhere, is she?
Crickets.
Is she? No. Because I certainly didn't recognise her. I did ask somebody in the Green Party to give me her phone number so I could send her a map. Her colleague in the Green Party, Nessa Hurricane, who's apparently also RTD in Dublin Central,
God help you.
would have the same difficulty in finding East Wall. But I listened to their leader, Eamon Ryan, today on the news at 1 as he went into his annual Ardesh. And he said, and I'm sure he kept a straight face for this, he said that the Green Party in the next election will have 10% of the vote and 10% of the seats. Now, I know he's known for nodding off a bit and being half out of it most of the time. But is he that delusional? And I can guarantee Eamon Ryan that the Green Party will either hold a council seat or a Dáil seat in this constituency.
They rigged the votes.
And if I could just move back to McDonald's. Today, for a pair of chicks in this area, sent around on social media, post or I don't know what you call it, a social media poster, but telling people and inviting people to go to the march in town, to raise the roof, the PR event that they are having. An event where they're calling for more housing, but yet they fail to recognise or they fail to accept that the importation of 70,000 people in 1 year has no effect on housing. They will be joined there by the Labour Party. Aon O'Riordan, who used to be in this constituency, who has now moved to the leafier suburbs of Clontarf, protested every planning application for housing in his constituency. So that's how much they want to solve the housing problem. Just to come back to the McDonald again, and I hate talking about it. In relation to the tweet from our councillor in Kerry, was only to be seconded by a tweet from an apparatchik in her party, a paid member, who lived in this area and was born and reared in East Wall, who tweeted a photograph from a rally outside Google, where a man had his arm raised, which they claim was a Nazi salute. That photograph has been totally discredited years ago. And he implied that that took place at this rally. Now, I don't know who the guy in the photograph was, but he wasn't here. And that photograph wasn't taken here. We asked her for an apology, and we were told they were spoken to. Now, there was a time when somebody in Sinn Féin said to you they were spoken to, it actually meant something. Now, it means nothing. And I suppose, to be fair to Mary Lou, the wait till it's finished. I'm sure she has other things on her mind.
She's an organised criminal.
I'd say she's concerned about what has been said in the Special Criminal Court about her. And let's be very clear. When she said, only a number of weeks ago, about the gentleman in the Special Criminal Court, and I'm not talking about Mr. Hutch. In 2014, he was exposed by me as to what he was, and they tried to shut it down. So and when she says that he was well respected in the community, I can guarantee you now that the Sinn Féin trajectory of being in government after the next election will be in tatters. Mary Lou MacDonald will never be Taoiseach. Now, we had intended Nigel to speak, but he has some asthmatic problems, so we'll skip over that part. But I want to just explain to people why we read the proclamation and to look at the proclamation. Because that's a document written 106 years ago, which sets out very clearly. And I would ask people, because sometimes people go to events and they hear these documents and they don't really take any notice of what's in them. And I'll just take a few quotes out of it. We declare the right of the people of Ireland to the ownership of Ireland. And to the unfettered control of Irish destiny, to be sovereign and indefeasible. We demand that this country becomes sovereign again, as it was in the period from 1916 to 1922. We demand that there's no influence or control over the Irish people, be it from London, Washington, or Brussels. It goes on to say, we hereby proclaim the Irish Republic as a sovereign, independent state, and we pledge our lives and the lives of our comrades in arms to the cause of freedom, of its welfare and of its exaltation amongst the nations. And further it goes on to say, the Irish Republic is entitled to and hereby claims the allegiance of every Irish man and Irish woman. And that is what we are looking for today, the allegiance of the Irish people. We're not concerned about who the political class give their allegiance to. In Easter 1916, the Irish volunteers many of them left this area, including my own grandparents, to establish the Irish Republic. They did it by force of arms. We will do it, and we will re-establish it, not through force of arms, but by the force of numbers. We will do it because we are right, and we have right on our side. The media reaction to what happened here, particularly on Monday night when we had over 2,000 people, was to panic for their own sake and for the sake of the political and NGO class that they represent. They are scared because the biggest concern they have is the contagion effect. Because if we are successful here, and that's why they can't allow us to be successful. If we are successful here, then every town and community, and they've told us that these are going into every town and community and village in the country. Every town in the country will be protesting. But again, before I came out, I listened to the news at once. And there was a Fine Gael councillor on. And he said, again with a straight face, it was Fine Gael TD from Wicklow, I think. And he said, with a straight face, I'm sure, people have the right to protest. And it's good that they protest. But of course he wasn't talking about us. He was talking about the farce in town. So we have good protests and bad protests. And we're obviously the bad protests. The protests that they engage in never achieve anything other than the creation of political careers for many of them. I'm just trying to turn a page. We're here today and we have the tricolour. The tricolour is the only flag of this nation. I don't want to see any other flags flying from state buildings or anywhere else. Whether it's the European rag, whether it's the Ukrainian flag, or any LGBT pride flag. There is only one flag in this nation that represents the people. When Francis Barr came back from France and unfolded the tricolour in Abbey Street, in this area, in this constituency, over 100 years ago, and went to unveil it then in Waterford and first fly it, it was very clear that the tricolour represented this island, the unity of Catholic and Protestant in the common name of Irishmen. There is only one anthem in this country, despite what the IRFU thinks and the political class, and that's Aran Naveen. And again, to throw in on the history of this community, the writer of Aran Naveen, the soldier song, and I would ask you all, because again, many people sing this at rallies and matches and things, and they don't actually understand what they're singing. Go and read the English version. Soldiers are we, whose lives are pledged to Ireland. Peter Carney wrote it. He lived in this constituency, in Dublin, the North Inner City. Peter Carney was an uncle of Brendan Behan, one of our greatest playwrights, who also lived in this part of the city. The national anthem was translated into Irish by Niall Ring's granduncle. Again in this area, and this is a historical area, on this balcony of the Imperial Hotel, which was Cleary's after that, in 1913, Jim Larkin gave a speech. And in that speech he said, "The great appear great because we are on our knees. Let us arise. Well, the people have risen, and we're not going away." It's important that we reflect on this period 100 years ago. 2 days ago, celebrated is the wrong word. We remembered the execution of Erskine Childers, shot by Fine Gael and the Free State government. On the 8th of December, we will remember the 4 martyrs who were taken out of their cells at dawn. Liam Mellows, Rory O'Connor, Dick Barrett and Joe McKelvey. Taken out on the orders of Mulcahy in direct reprisal for the assassination by the IRA of Sean Hales. They were taken out, one from each province, to send a message to those who would defend this republic that we will do what we want. The very same thing that this government told us today. Nothing has changed. The political class, the people who would have accepted home rule, the people who bought and destroyed this country for 100 years are still saying, we will do what we want. And when we talk about refugees, my father was a refugee. He came down to this state in the mid-1950s as a result of an operation in the British War Office in Belfast being compromised, where he had been, along with other IRA volunteers, inserted to obtain intelligence. And to be fair to this state, when they discovered him here, they did give him accommodation. They gave him a lovely room, 6 by 6 with 2 bunks in it. They gave him 3 meals a day. Now they said, again to be fair to them, you don't have to stay here forever. In 6 months, we're throwing you out. And that building is an old Victorian building, not too far from here, opposite the Mater Hospital. That's the welcome refugees from the northern statelet got in this country and continue to get. And now, in his place, in that prison, are not the drug dealers who should be there, but there are people like Enoch Burke, who is in there since September and looks like being there since February, till February, for nothing. Because, and we're told, oh well, he's breaching a court injunction. The following week, 4 people from the right side of the fence, or actually the left side of the fence if you follow their logic, were up for the very same thing, breach of a court order. And they were told, you're grand, go on home. So it's very clear that this state, since its creation, will use whatever methods it has to defeat us. I listen to people, politicians, the NGO class, and remember, there are over 30,000 NGOs and assorted groupings in this country who get between 6 and 7 billion per year from you. Why would they say anything against the government? They pay their wages.
We pay the wages.
Well, yes,
We pay the wages.
Now, I listen to them telling us we have a moral and legal right to take people in. Well, they do have a moral right. They have a moral right to the 1 million people who are on HSE waiting lists. They have a moral right to the 100,000 children who are waiting on medical health assessment. They have a moral right to deal with class sizes, to ensure that we can get teachers into schools to teach our children. They have a moral right to ensure that those teachers have somewhere to live. They have a moral right to ensure that we have sufficient doctors and teachers and nurses and Gardaí to deal with the population that we have. They have a moral right to provide our people with housing. And the people who are marching in town today have no interest or concern in solving any of those problems. They are there solely to further their own political careers. The political establishment in this country have the moral right to look at why so many of our young people are committing suicide. The biggest cause of death of young men is suicide. Yet, we're not allowed to talk about it. But we'll fund umpteen NGOs and quangos and reports to ask why. The ERSI came out with a report the other day to say, and they gave us the breakdown and all of the asylum figures and all that, and they said they couldn't find one single contributory factor as to why the numbers were increasing. Well, let me just give them one reason. If the Minister for everything, it appears, comes out and says, listen lads, come to Ireland, we'll give you a key to your own door in 4 months. Sure, I'd be on a plane. Not too far from here is Fairview Park, where there are men sleeping in bushes. And if there's any of them here, I'll give you some advice. Go up to Conley Station, get on the train to Belfast, hang around the train station and get the next train back. Leave your passport on the train and apply for asylum. You'll be in here like a light. The political class in this country are so consumed by themselves. Let's just look at what they've done this week and what their main concerns, apart from the revolution that's happening on the streets that they want to ignore. They put a machine for tampons in the men's toilets in the Dáil, on the basis that some men have periods. Are there any men here who have periods? Put your hands up.
Does menopause count?
They banned. They banned the sale of vape cigarettes to children, to under 16s. At the same time, they were introducing a bill to legalise cannabis. You couldn't make it up. And let's be very clear, the Garda Commissioner was asked yesterday at a function or an event about this rally, and he was asked about violence. And to be fair to him, he said, well, we have no indication of any violence. Why would they even ask that question? And then he went on to tell us, as if we didn't know, and to the members of the special branch who are here today monitoring this, good evening, gentlemen. And I would be seriously concerned if the special branch were not monitoring any meeting that I was speaking at. He said that they're monitoring your social media. Now, we would expect little else. But I would suggest that the Garda Commissioner should divert his officers to deal with the issues being raised in the Special Criminal Court and the allegations into certain political parties. And if that individual had any shred of decency, she would step aside. But don't be in any doubt what this government will do. And they will only do it if the numbers here increase. This is not just an East Wall issue. This is not a Dublin issue. This is a national issue and an international issue. And we want to send greetings and solidarity to the people in Wicklow who marched this morning, and some of them have travelled up here today. We want to send greetings to the people in Kiel who are protesting, to the people in Tala who are protesting later today. We send our solidarity and our greetings. If this government is so convinced that they're right and we're wrong, and that the mass of people in this country, the people that Leo Varadkar said go out to work in the morning, the people that years ago we were told were the people that have their dinner in the middle of the day, the ordinary decent people in this country, if we are not reflecting their views, let them put it to a referendum and ask them. And since last week, since last Saturday when we gathered here on a very haphazard way, it wasn't actually organised, and we went from that to 2,000 people on Monday night and 300 or 400 the next day. And you would think, and we've been accused in some media today of being involved in a culture war. Well, we are involved in a culture war, but there are some symbols of hope in that culture. When you look at the Cuckoo family last night on the toy show, I'm not sure if that's the real name, the family who are very clear in their what their granny and their mother had taught them in terms of Irish culture and Irish tradition. And that is our culture.
Get them out!
Now, we had intended, and we'll probably do it in a sec there, to play, some of you may know the song. There's a song from the inner city called the Inner City Song. We'll try and play it on the system now in a minute. And we want to adopt that as an anthem. And when you understand the words of it, and if you change, there's one line in it which talks about you may build your motorways. We will be changing that to you may build your reception centres. And people will understand the song when they hear it. We've also, and particularly in light of what happened to poor women's soccer team when they happened to be making a particular chant, we want to change the chant from up the Ra to up the wall. Now we intend, and we have said, and we let the government in no doubt, that we will be having this protest today, that we will be having further protests. We'll be back here on Monday evening, and there will be an escalation in our activities.
Bluetooth disconnected. Bluetooth connected.
I think that may be somebody trying to... With our brother Jack. Maybe she's eating the curtain way. Remember you're not sure. Abigail.
Put them all in there! Oh no, we're all going to have a rave on the road at 6 o'clock. I come back here now. Come on, and do the same thing.
We're just going to play the our system.
Baby sleep, no? The Liberty now, you know where it is, probably not. You get to the Liberty now because it's too far to drive, so we probably get up on the drive street. East Wall without any consent from the local people. Let's look at the stats. 40% of people apply for asylum in Ireland. 40% land in Dublin Airport without a passport or what, or without ID. We don't know who they are, where they're from, what they've done before. Get them out! Get them out and right! These people should not be allowed, nobody should be allowed into our country unless we know who they are, what they're from, and if they want to come here to reside, the same as every normal country in the world outside the EU, that you must prove who you are, where you're from, do you have a criminal record. So I'll tell you, up in Louth, mid-Louth there, not that far from me, a guy moved in there just after Christmas, Slovak Roma called Roman Croc. He was convicted of rape 3 times the middle of the day in Derby in the UK of a 14-year-old girl. Right, he got jailed for 2.5 years, and as the British were thinking, will we deport this guy, what did he do? He came to Dunleer, where his mother has a free, brand new, 3-bedroom social house.
Ah, no, be sorry not.
Now, the problem is that the solution to this is that we should know everybody who gets off a plane. It's easy to do, and the solution is immediately is they put the onus on the airlines to know that no one gets off their plane without their face, without their name, and without their passport. Right? That's the question. We want to know everybody who's here. And our first, I'm telling you, we as a people have been taken for a ride by our own government. These politicians are taking us, they They are taking our labour, our taxpayers' money, and they, what do? They give it to their friends in the hotels. 1 in 4 hotel rooms across the country are taken by friends of Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil. 1/4 of hotel rooms in the country. Who would like to go for a holiday for 3 months in Killarney? Hands up! Who would like? The problem is, the government, we are paying, the government are giving the money to their friends. We've got to stop the government using our money to further the nest. They don't do it for compassion or love, no. They do it for profit. Another, we've been taken for a ride. So it was 40%. We were told at the start of this conflict with Ukraine, and of course, the whole mass immigration movement to Ireland has nothing to do with Russia or Ukraine. Why? The population of Ireland has increased by 1 million in the last 20 years. Right, that's gone up 25% in the last 20 years. But we were told it's going to be men and women. Oh, open your hearts, open your homes. 40% of people claiming to be Ukraine, as Philip Dwyer has pointed out. Many of them are from Kashmir, Pakistan. They look to be from Africa. We know we are being taken for a ride.
Yes!
We got to stop it. And look at the rest of those who claim to be refugees. Where are they from? Say countries like, let me ask you, say countries like Albania, Georgia, Nigeria, and you know the Dublin Convention, that they're supposed to apply for asylum in the first country in which they land. Let me ask you, and it's a simple question, yes or no. Are there any direct flights from Nigeria to Dublin? No! Are there any direct flights from Georgia to Dublin? No! Are there any direct flights from Somalia to Dublin? No! Okay, and we know some of these countries, look at Somalia. Somalia is a lawless, not a very nice country. I'm being diplomatic. Bottom line is that would you, and it's yes or no again, would you, as a responsible parent, put your young daughter in the way of a young male man who just walked into your country? You don't know his name, you don't know where he's from or his criminal record. Yes or no? No! Would you be happy? Yes or no again? No! Are you happy that your grandmother would be kicked out on the street by a private nursing home across the country to make room for someone who claims that they are an asylum seeker? No! Here's a trick that the mainstream media don't want to talk about, but we all have to think about always. And it's not to do with race, it's to do with space, and it's to do with numbers, and it's to do with security, and it's to do with cost. And you, the people who work, people of Ireland, we are the ones who pay the price in our money. And also, why should we allow that there should be more people like Ashley Murphy who should be raped and murdered in our country? We gotta say, never! 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 Say it 3 times and you don't win.
Ian Paisley.
Second thing, we have to be the numbers game, as I said. We're all led this merry dance. It's all about asylum seekers and
Ireland needs to get out of the global compact of migration as soon as
At the end of
possible.
August this year, right, over 200,000 PTS numbers were given out in Ireland by the end of August. Do you know how many of those were given to people not who are Irish, who were born in Ireland? 1%. So 200,000 PTS numbers given out. What percentage were given to people even born in Ireland? 23%. 23%. So by the end of this year, let's say there'll be well over 200,000 people coming into our country. Let's do the maths. Let's say there's 70,000 from Ukraine, 20,000 from 20,000 from Maret, that's over 110,000. So there will be roughly, I don't know, there's well over 100,000 new people coming into Ireland every year. Now, the population has already increased by 1 million in 20 years. The government, their policy 2040 plan is to actually attract and to bring in and to send out search parties to bring in another million by 2040. Let me ask you a very simple question, and it's yes or no. Do you want Ireland to be a colony? No! Are you happy that Ireland is a plantation? No! Well, we've got to replace the political class before they replace us. Yes. And if people think that Sinn Féin, remember they used to be called Ourselves Alone. Well, now they have made clear they're not a nationalist or a Republican party, they're a European Unionist party. And their immigration policy is traitors! 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 Everybody else in. And as I said to the Irish Times there yesterday, that Sinn Féin are not the vanguard of the working class, they're the mudguard of the super woke, the big multinational corporations, and we will never be fooled. So rise up, don't allow these people to colonise our country. We will be no one's colony. No one. So Irish people, we're good enough. Right, here's another one. Easy, and this is the end. Yes or no question. Are the Irish people good enough to make their own laws? Yes! Are Irish people good enough to control our own borders? Yes! Are the Irish people good enough to control our own budgets? Yes! Well, as said there in the proclamation, we should seek once again Ireland to be a free, sovereign, independent republic. Go to Magnuson.
This is no longer just a local issue. And to those who say that our party shouldn't be here, I say this has now become a national issue. Because the same events that we see playing out in East Wall are being played out in every town and village throughout this country, where highly dubious, unvetted people are being forcibly imported, often into very small, peaceful communities, with no concern whatsoever for the impact that this will have. This is a second, deliberate and carefully planned plantation of this country. The Irish people are not a racist people. I lived in North Dublin for 5 years, and I can say that the people of North Dublin haven't got a racist bone in their bodies. The same can be said for Irish people generally. But when you hear the vicious anti-Irish bigots who run our government and our media accusing ordinary Irish people of racism because they have a genuine concern about the reckless policy of population replacement which is being implemented by the government.
89 NGOs dealing with racism in Ireland. How many NGOs are involved in helping returning Irish resettled back into the country of their birth?
Policy as we do are those who hate this country and its people and simply want to undermine our society and our communities. There can no longer be any doubt that it is the intent of the government to substantially replace the Irish population within the next 10 to 15 years. And if this means creating a situation of social chaos and of public disorder, they are quite happy to do so. This can no longer be called a conspiracy theory. The government is on record as saying that it wants to increase our population to 8 million by the year 2040, at a time when Irish birth rates are falling through the floor because ordinary tax-paying working people cannot afford to have children or to buy houses for them. The population increase the government demands, and they give us no good reason for it, can only be achieved by the massive importation of people from abroad. And for the most part, these will be people who come from radically different countries to our own. This is no longer a conspiracy theory, it is a mathematical certainty. The government wants to import a dependent population whose votes it can buy and manipulate. It wants a justification to attack property rights, to attack free speech, to attack the coherence of the Irish station, and an open door, unvetted importation of people is the way that it would use to achieve those ends. Unless we stand up to government now and say that enough is enough, but then we will no longer have a free and democratic Ireland to defend, because our government will have destroyed it. When the people of East Wall have come out to give the government their answer, we will not let you destroy our country. In many respects, I think that the present difficulties that we face are only a symptom of what is wrong with our state. For years now, our government has been engaged in lies and deceit and acting directly against the interest of the Irish people.
Malfeasance in
During
public
the
office.
COVID era, we saw the state combined with the medical profession and the media to engage in a deliberate policy of misinformation in order to frighten and mislead the public. A large part of the reason for that was to usher in a range of coercive and repressive measures against freedom of movement, freedom of expression, and freedom of bodily autonomy. We now see the same pattern of deceitfulness and lies in the efforts being made by government to cover up the damage caused by the lockdown, the disregard for proper health care, and yes, even the vaccination programs. Those who 12 months ago were demanding that the unvaccinated be prevented from entering hospitals and be prevented from entering shops so that they could feed themselves are now looking for an amnesty and immunity from prosecution for the damage they have caused.
Not a chance.
We will never forget the damage that they did, because if they do, they'll simply come back and do it again. We now see a massive increase in all-cause mortality being reported throughout Europe. If we do not properly investigate those issues, they will come again under some other pretext, such as global warming or some new health scare, and attack our people again. There can be no doubt that our government and our institutions are engaged in a deliberate policy of tyranny to attack the Irish people. And they have been fairly